everybody, welcome back to our channel. Today I'm going to be doing a little Q&A about our infertility journey. A lot of you guys have sent us questions, and I realized that I never got around to answering a lot of them, so I'm going to be doing a Q&A today, which is really exciting. I can't wait. I've got all of you guys' questions typed up here, so I'm going to be answering them. If you're new to our journey, my husband Matt and I are currently going through IVF, and I'm on day 9 of stems. My egg retrieval is coming up soon, so exciting! But anyway, I'm just going to jump right into the video, so this video won't be too terribly long for you guys. Okay, so number 1, first question comes from Kristen in Sedley, Virginia, and she said, "What is the full process of IVF? What meds are taken, and what does each dose do?" And this question kind of ties in with another question from Melissa in Idaho, who asks, how long does an IVF cycle take in terms of starting meds to embryo harvest, to embryo transfer, and then waiting to find out if it worked? So the first step is obviously getting a consultation and pretty much discussing what options you have. And then a lot of times, well, at least in my experience, they had us starting on birth control just to make sure that our follicles don't grow too much, and to keep everybody in sync. And then you go for a baseline appointment, which is where you'll get an ultrasound just to see how many follicles you have. They'll do blood work that day. They teach you how to use your injections and all that fun stuff. So, and then after baseline day, pretty much you'll start your stem medications, and the stem medications pretty much are just there to help get your eggs growing, so you have a nice good number of good quality eggs for egg retrieval. So the medications that I'm on right now are Gonal F, Minipure, and Cetrotide. Gonal F, it comes like in a pre-filled little pen. It's real user friendly. That medication is just used to pretty much make your eggs grow to a large, substantial size for egg retrieval. And I believe the Minipure pretty much does the same thing. Not everybody takes Gonal F. Some people take something called Follistim instead. I think it pretty much depends on like your insurance or what's cheaper, what they send you, but it does the same thing pretty much, Follistim and Gonal F. And then, like I said, Minipure does the same thing with helping your eggs grow. Gonal F is typically taken in the morning, and Minipure is typically taken in the evening. And then the last medication I'm on is Cetrotide. Cetrotide is basically a medication that is time sensitive, meaning it has to be taken at the exact same time every day, like to the minute. And that medication pretty much keeps you from ovulating. So they started me on Cetrotide probably about 5 or 6 days into stems, I think. And that's just because I had a lot of really good growth of my follicles. So they wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to ovulate, because if you ovulate, your cycle will get canceled, so you don't want that to happen. So yeah, that's pretty much those are the 3 things that I'm on. Not everybody will take Cetrotide. Some people take Ganirelix. Pretty sure they're very similar. They are both medications that will keep you from ovulating. But I was sent Cetrotide, so that's what I get to take. And the injections are not very painful. The Minipure does burn a little bit, but for the most part, they're okay. I haven't really had any problems with those medications so far. So I am kind of running out of spots to inject myself. So that's I'm kind of getting like a little bit bruised down there. But so far so good. It's all gonna be worth it, right? Did I answer everything in there? Oh, so after like somewhere between 8 and 12 days on stems, whatever your doctor decides, you go in for your egg retrieval, which mine is scheduled for Tuesday, so I'm really excited about that. And that's where they go in and they harvest your eggs, and they will fertilize them with sperm and start fertilizing them to get your embryos going. And then either 3 or 5 days later, depending on how well your embryos are progressing, you either do a 3-day embryo transfer or a 5-day embryo transfer. So that's really exciting. In my case, I'm hoping to be able to do a 5-day embryo transfer, because a 5-day embryo is a blastocyst, and those are the strongest. So if I'm able to do a 5-day transfer, which I'm hoping I will be, our embryo transfer will be 1 week from tomorrow. So that's so exciting. And after embryo transfer, you start taking progesterone. For me, I'm going to be taking progesterone in oil injections. Those are intramuscular, so I'm not really looking forward to those at all. And I actually have to continue those through 10 weeks of pregnancy. So, yeah, those aren't going to be very fun. And let's see. How long to wait to find out if it works? So, so if you transfer a 5-day embryo, that is basically equivalent to 5 days past ovulation, because it's a 5-day-old embryo. So some people will get positives on at-home pregnancy tests as soon as 3 or 4 days after embryo transfer. Most people won't, but some people do. So you could find out that early. But they'll typically have you come in for a beta test, which is where they test your HCG level. And that's typically done somewhere between 10 to 12 days after embryo transfer. So then you'll have a surefire answer on whether or not it worked or not. And I have not decided yet whether I'm going to take an at-home pregnancy test before my beta test. While I do, I'm sure that I'll want to find out as soon as possible. And also, if it's bad news, I want to be able to prepare myself. But at the same time, I'm going to want to enjoy being poopo as long as possible. And if you don't know what poopo is, it's pregnant until proven otherwise. So, okay, I think I pretty much covered that question. Okay, so my next question comes from Frank in Virginia. And Frank asked, what are your favorite and least favorite aspects of IVF? So my favorite aspect of IVF is basically that, it gives the ability for someone to have a child who might otherwise never be able to conceive naturally. Just like in our case with Matt having azoospermia and having to have his sperm removed via testicular biopsy, without IVF, he never would have been able to naturally father a child. So I like the way IVF gives hope to those who otherwise wouldn't really have any hope, and there's a lot of situations out there where IVF is really the only option. So I'm really happy that it's available for people who need it. My least favorite thing about IVF is probably just the uncertainty, not knowing. The fact that things can change at any given time. Things can change. Like one day you might be given extremely good news, and the next day you might get a call saying, oh, your estrogen level is too high. We have to cancel your cycle. Or, you didn't take your ganirelix in time, so you ovulated. So, go order a whole other box of medicine. So, just the unpredictableness is something that I don't like about IVF. And also another con that I have is just, IVF really takes the surprise out of being able to announce a pregnancy. Years ago, before I knew that Matt and I were going to struggle with infertility, I always dreamed of ways that I would surprise him and tell him I was pregnant, and, ways I would surprise my parents and my in-laws and just everyone in my family. And, now it's like that'll never happen. And that's because everything's on the schedule. Like, everybody, all of our close family and friends know that pretty much, we got egg retrieval coming out, then we have embryo transfer, and then they're going to know, they're probably going to know exactly when the pregnancy test is at the doctor and when we're expecting results. So, whether it's positive or whether it's negative, we won't be able to make any kind of cute announcement or do any kind of cute surprise. I won't be able to surprise Matt. I won't be able to. So, that's one of the negative things about IVF. It's just losing that element of being able to just surprise your spouse, surprise your family. Now, of course, we'll do a cute announcement on Facebook, probably, you know, when we're around 3 or 4 months. But I mean, that's just not the same as being able to surprise like close family and your husband and things like that. So that's one of the other cons that I have for IVF. Okay, next question comes from Elsie in Chesapeake. Elsie asked, how much does IVF cost and how do you afford it? So for us, IVF is just over $20,000. And the way that we have been able to afford it is basically Matt and I, you know, we're not millionaires. We have had to make a lot of sacrifices to be able to afford IVF, but we have done it, and we have paid for it in full because of the sacrifices that we have made throughout the years. And some examples of the sacrifices we've made are we don't buy new clothes, we don't have any expensive home furnishings, we shop at thrift stores and consignment stores whenever we can. Yard sales, you know, we don't buy new shoes, we don't have gym memberships, we don't have spa memberships, we don't have any expensive hobbies, we don't even buy drinks. Like, seriously, we drink tap water, we don't even buy drinks. That's how tight we are. We don't buy knickknacks for our house, we don't travel, we don't go on vacations, but I mean, we take advantage of doing a lot of free things around town. We like to go to parks. We like to bird watch. We like astronomy. You know, there's really a lot of stuff, a lot of activities you can do around town that are very inexpensive and or completely free. So, you know, we don't feel the need to travel or go on, you know, real fancy, extravagant vacations or anything like that. Just, you know, because we want to save the money and we can have just as much fun having staycations at home doing things around town. So, so pretty much the only things that we buy, and I'm being completely honest here, the only things that we do spend money on is food, gas, personal care items like, you know, shampoo, conditioner, razors, toothpaste, you know, things that you just got to get. Medicine, our bills, mortgage payment, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, and did I say medication? Yeah, medications. So, I mean, besides that, we don't buy anything. We don't spend money. So that has really helped us to be able to save money throughout the years. And while I never guessed that we would end up suffering infertility, well, I knew never to take getting pregnant for granted. So something told me to always save a little extra money. You know, before we even got married, I started saving money just in case we ended up having problems with infertility and we needed to do IVF or something like that, because, you know, my mom had to do IVF. A lot of people that I know are going through infertility. So just getting pregnant right away was something that I just never took for granted. I always pretty much expected the unexpected, and I'm really glad that I did, because we were able to save a lot of money throughout the years. And now, you know, that we did end up needing IVF, luckily, thank goodness, we were able to pay for it. So yeah, that's pretty much how we afforded it, just making a lot of sacrifices and, you know, going to work every day, making money, and, you know, just living well below our means in as many ways that we can. So, okay, next question comes from Charlotte in Chesapeake. She said, what are your expectations for this first IVF cycle? So my expectations with this cycle, while I would love for me to be with, the best case scenario would obviously be being able to do a fresh transfer, you know, with a strong 5-day blastocyst, you know, having 10 embryos in the freezer and getting pregnant the first time. Yeah, that would be the best case scenario. But my expectations are, to be completely honest, I don't expect it to work the first time. Just because I don't want to get my hopes up to possibly be crushed. So my hope for this IVF cycle is to retrieve enough eggs to be able to have 3 or 4 good embryos. That would make me really happy. 3 or 4 good embryos. And if it does not work the first time with a fresh transfer, my hope is that eventually, when we keep going back for frozen transfers for our other embryos, my hope is that we will have one healthy live birth from this entire IVF cycle. That's my wish. And we would like to have 2, 3, maybe even 4 kids eventually, but my expectations for this particular IVF cycle is one live birth. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'll be extremely blessed if that happens. So, if the first fresh transfer fails, and then say we have 2 embryos left, and the next transfer fails, and then the third transfer works, that's fine with me. Like, I'm not going to have overly high expectations just to be disappointed. My expectation and my hope for this entire process at this particular clinic is one baby eventually. Okay, next question. Next question comes from Betty in Bowers Hill. And Betty asks, have you thought about adoption if IVF fails? So, absolutely. Matt and I would absolutely love to adopt. I actually checked into international adoption. I checked into Korean and Chinese adoption. And I found a lot of good information online. Unfortunately, though, the process is very lengthy for one, and it's very, very expensive. Like, it costs it can be up to 3 times as much as what IVF costs to adopt. So while adoption is very expensive, it is a route that we have considered. A lot of adoption agencies require you to be married for, I think, 3 years or something before you can adopt. And Matt and I, we're just now coming up on our 1-year anniversary, so adoption would not really be an option for us right now anyway. But it is something that we definitely would like to look into for the future. We definitely want to have our own children, but at the same time, we are open to adoption possibly when we are finished with IVF, and if we still want to add to our family, yes, we may look into adopting 1 or 2 children. So yes, that is something that we're definitely interested in. Okay, next question comes from Helen in Chesapeake. Helen asked, will you be transferring 1 or 2 embryos? So the short answer is we don't know yet. It all depends on the quality of our embryos. So if we have, and I'm not entirely sure how they grade the embryos, I think it's like a letter scale, like A, B, B, C, something like that. So if we have a really good, strong 5-day blastocyst, then we'll probably just transfer that 1. But, if they give me a call and they say, hey, your embryos aren't looking too good, we want you to come in and do a transfer on day 3. If that happens, we're going to probably put 2 in. Just because day 3 embryos are typically not as strong as day 5s, and we want to maximize our chances. But no, we don't want twins. Our goal is, like I said earlier, 1 healthy baby. But if we only have 3-day embryos, or if our embryos are of poor quality, we absolutely will transfer 2 of them. And if we get twins, that would be great. But our preference would definitely be to transfer 1 strong 5-day blastocyst. But of course, we don't know whether that's going to happen yet or not. We're taking it 1 day at a time. So hope I answered your question okay, Helen. Okay, and let's see. Last question comes from Peter in Poland. Okay, and Peter asked, what advice would you give someone going through IVF or infertility in general? So my advice to someone going through IVF is pretty much just expect the unexpected. It's great to be optimistic, but it's also good to be realistic, and just don't go into it with too high of expectations, and just try not to be discouraged, because there are hard days, there are difficult days, but just keep in mind that eventually it all will be worth it in the end, hopefully. So that's just my advice. Just always be prepared. Expect the unexpected. IVF is very unpredictable, so you just want to always be ready for whatever curveballs it's going to throw at you. And the other advice I have is to save your money. Infertility is not cheap. Infertility is very expensive. So just, go to work every day, only buy the necessities. When it comes to infertility, you know, even though you're not in control of what ends up happening in the long run, there are some things that you are in control of. And for me, that's going to work every day, saving my money. Because when it comes to infertility, when it comes down to it, if you have the money, the sky really is the limit. I mean, there's so many options out there. You know, if sperm is your issue, then you can use donor sperm. You can purchase donor sperm. If eggs are your issue, you can purchase donor eggs. If eggs and sperm are both an issue, you can do embryo adoption. If you have a problem where you can't carry a pregnancy to term, you can have your embryo placed in a surrogate. I mean, there's so many options out there. The sky is the limit. Like, my clinic will take people up to 56 years old. Like, a woman that's 56 can go do IVF. I'm sure she would have to do donor eggs or donor embryos. But that's what the point I'm trying to make. When it comes to infertility, as long as you have the money, the sky is the limit. So, you know, that's just my advice. My main piece of advice as far as infertility is just save your money, live well below your means, because as long as you have money and you have a good source of income, you can keep trying different things. So that's probably my best piece of advice, because like I said, surrogate, donor sperm, donor eggs, embryo adoption, IVF, traditional adoption, all those things are out there and are options, but nothing is cheap, and insurance probably won't cover anything. So that's my main piece of advice, is save your money. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up all of our questions. Thank you guys for all the questions that you submitted, and hopefully I'll be uploading this video today. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye!